Children are a blessing, and indeed, if one loses the blessing, it becomes a thorn in the flesh, a memory never to be forgotten. But for Marianne Olson, commonly known as Shiru, had to make lemonade from the lemons life gave her, hence making an impact not only to her continent, but to the world as well.
My name is Marianne Olson, also known as Shiru Olson. Currently, I go by Shiru Olson in Canada. Most people call me Shiru. I was born in Kenya, in Thika, and my mom very quickly became a single mother because my father died when I was two months old. Went to school, very many schools, but the one I remember most is Nyeri Primary. It was a really good school. I went to Maryhill High School, Form 1 to Form 4, and then I went to Kangobiri High School, Form 5 to 6. From there, I thought, once I did my A-levels, while I was waiting to know if I was going to university, I thought I would do a few courses, and one of them was studying Italian and hairdressing. So I took those two courses, and I thought, oh, you know what, I could actually do design or be a fashion model or something, fashion design, not a model, but a fashion designer. And I went to Italy, and I was in Italy for a while and came back and then went back again. That career did not take off because apparently you have to be speaking in Italian. I went to a class and they only spoke Italian. So I didn't go to that college. I decided to take Italian as a second language. And I studied that and came back and worked at the Italian embassy from the time I came back to about 1990, maybe 95, I did a lot of Italian-related jobs. And I was a personal assistant to a press attaché at one point. I was a personal assistant to somebody who owned a few businesses. So then after that, my mom had a business, a hair salon. And as I had told you, I did beauty and hairdressing. So I started doing that as part. The embassy only works half day, so the rest of the day I did hairdressing at my mom's salon. And I moved from there to the States, and I was going to study flying. So I had decided I wanted to be a commercial pilot. It was successful to a point because I was in the States from 1996 to 2000, and while there, I was married to Tony Mbugus. He was a journalist in Kenya, a photojournalist in Kenya, and he had gone to the States earlier, and I joined him there. We got married in 1997. Our life was really, really a hectic life. We hit the bars a lot, we lived on the edge a lot, and that was the kind of life that I lived in the States from up to 2000. In 2000, we went to Canada. We moved to Canada, and the reason was it was easier to get residence in Canada. We had been trying to get residence in the US, but had been on visas forever. So we thought, okay, so let's try Canada. And while we were in Canada, we realized that our life was not good together, and so we got a divorce. And I moved on, and he moved on, and we, at that point accepted Christ as my personal savior, and my life has changed ever since. And when I met my current husband, Norm Olson, I was on a very different level of life. I was partying a lot before I met Christ, and here I was not partying, going to the church. And we became, we started dating almost immediately after we met. Well, as you can see, I'm married with 3 children with him, and so it's one of those situations where God is in control. We got married in 2004 and 5, and in 2006 May we had our first baby, Keshi. With my firstborn, Keshi was past due and I had to be induced twice to bring her to this world. So 2 days I went to the hospital. Then I had Carla. My pregnancy with Carla was it was not a good pregnancy at all. I was constantly in the hospital, constantly getting induced with, not induced, but on IV. I was dehydrated. So I spent lots of time in the hospital before the last time when I could barely walk, and I was taken to the hospital. Keshi was in the daycare, and it was an emergency. So my husband took me to emergency, called the daycare, told them that we were going to be late to pick Keshi up, but that we were at emergency. My situation was so grave that they had to put me in an ambulance and take me 2 hours away to a special women's hospital, because my situation was such that they could not see the baby, they could not hear the heartbeat, and I was in so much pain and could barely walk. So while there, I found out that I had too much amniotic fluid. They couldn't see the baby or hear the heartbeat. As a result of that, they had to remove a lot of amniotic fluid. So that was about 2.5 liters of amniotic fluid. And when that was done, it was like a miracle. I could walk. I had no more back pain or stomach pain. And I just remember telling them, I'm ready to dance. I'm so happy and I feel as light as a feather. And then I went into labor. And I could not believe it. I was only 28 weeks along. How could I be going into labor? But Carla was born. So Carla came into this world very early. I was asking Jesus not to get her out. I was like, no, please. But it happened. And the hardest part for me was that as soon as she was born, they did an x-ray on her, and what they saw brought them back to the ward, and they just looked at me and they said, are you ready to go and see the x-rays? And I'm thinking, why am I not going to see the baby? And Carla's bones had holes in them from her head to her toes, just holes. And they said she's very, very swollen. She has a lot of fluid in her. And so we are going to dehydrate her. And we are in the process of, we've put her on morphine because we know that that's an inflammation of some sort. So your baby must be going through a lot of pain. So, yeah. So the best thing for you now that you can do now is, have something to drink, and we'll let you go and see her when she's a little bit more settled. And when I went to see my baby, I looked and I wondered if she was fully formed. She was under 2 pounds. She was really swollen, but she didn't look like she had a lot of her normal, she didn't look fully developed. And I just said, will she ever be normal? And they said, oh yeah, she will be normal. And Carla was on a table like a specimen, when you go to a lab, and she was on that table, never had a blanket on her. I could not hold her, did not hold my baby for more than a month. And she went through a lot of procedures, They did a lot of they needed a lot of samples. They didn't know what was wrong with her, so they had to send samples all over the world, even South Africa and North America. So the samples were in the US in different states, and the samples were going to Africa in different countries. They were going to the UK, and it took them about almost 2 weeks before they had a conference with us to tell us what was wrong with Carla. And Carla had a very rare condition called Caffey's syndrome, and the reason they didn't know what it was because it had never been in their hospital or in Canada. This was the first case in Canada. And the way it presents itself is once the baby gets Caffey's syndrome, they cannot survive. So they die in utero and are born within the first 6 months, stillborn. And this was 6 months. 28 weeks is a 6-month point of the pregnancy. And Carla was born, and they thought she wouldn't live for more than 6 weeks after she was born.
My name is Carla Wanja Olson, and I'm 10 years old, and I was born in Vancouver, and I was born September 12, 2008. I was born 3 months early. I'm a dancer. My favorite dance is tap, and I go to Kristen Morrison Elementary in Canada. I speak English and French. My parents are Shiru Olson and Norman Olson. They are construction workers, and they run their own business. We have a dog named Benji. I have a sister named Cassie Olson, and I had a younger sister named Clay Olson.
My name is Keshi Olson, and I was born May 6, 2006 at Abbotsford Hospital in Canada, and I live with my family. I've been going to French immersion for 7 years, and this is my first year at a private Christian school where I'm in English now. And I love to dance, and I love to play volleyball. I'm hoping to be more competitive in volleyball as I get older, and I'm already very competitive in dance. I love dancing so much.
Today Carla is 10, and even if her first 4 months were, she stayed in the hospital, she got the hospital bag, which is called MRSA, and everybody, got something from that MRSA. And then she started her trips to the hospital after that. She had to have lots of surgery. Her breathing was always an issue. But by age 3, she was good. And then because of all the medication that she had been having, her teeth she needed some treatment for her teeth because they were always so, brittle. They used to break a lot because of all the medication. So that was it. Her bones, of course, constant medication for her bones, and she's perfectly okay today. There's not a trace of Caffey's disease in her system. There isn't any trace of any deficiency of any sort. She's perfect. She's above, she exceeds expectations. She's an A student. She's a great dancer, basketballer. Now she wants to play volleyball. So the sky is the limit, and we thank God for that. In 2012, we were expecting our third daughter. And again, after 20 weeks, they discovered that our third daughter had the same syndrome as Carla. And they hospitalized me from that moment on because they knew they would have to keep reducing the amniotic fluid. And I was I asked God, how is this possible? The doctors could not even believe that I had 2 cases of a syndrome they had never heard of in the first place. And here I was in a rare case of having 2 children born with the same rare disease. So, well, I stayed in the hospital from the 20th of January to the 15th of March. And then they discharged me, because at that point, even if the baby came, every time they took amniotic fluid, they expected that it would excite my uterus and I would go into labor, but it didn't happen. So I had 3 procedures, and after the 3rd procedure, I stayed for 2 weeks in the hospital, 2 weeks more, and they felt it was safe for me to be discharged. I was discharged. I got home that day, and after midnight on March 16th, 2012, I went into labor. So I didn't even end up sleeping, and I was back in the hospital again. But the baby was sitting not in a good position, so they had to do a cesarean, an emergency cesarean. Kare was born at 5 a.m. and we were rushed back to the hospital, which was 2 hours away, and back to that special women's hospital, because I had to be under some care and she had to be under some care at the NICU of Children's Hospital in Vancouver. And we started the journey again. With Carla, I had been in the hospital for 4 months before we saw home. She never left the hospital, and now here was Kare, and I was ready to stay 6 months because she was sicker than Carla was. And we began our journey, and unfortunately Kare only lived 39 days. But in that 39 days, I changed from being, no hope, or well, I guess I can't say I had no hope, but I was really disappointed to know that I had another child with Caffey's syndrome.
It is assumed that children are too young to comprehend what death is, hence not being affected by it, but this was exactly the opposite of Marianne's daughters, who were deeply affected by their siblings' death.
Clay passed away after about a month. I don't really have any health problems or anything like Clay had. I'm pretty healthy. I guess I call myself a miracle baby because I was born super early and I survived with the sickness I had when I was born.
I had a little sister and I still have one, and they both had Caffey's disease, where they had holes in their bones, and so Kare died from that, and I only got to visit her a few times on the weekends, and I never really got to know her that well. The nurses didn't really let us touch her that often because she was very, very sick, and she, if we touch her, it just kind of increases the danger of her dying. So I didn't know her very well, but I remember when I was told that she had passed away. We were at a Burger King with my dad, just Carla and I, and we were with my dad, and he was showing us some pictures of Kare in some clothes, and my mom was holding her, and I asked, oh, is she coming home and stuff, because I'd never seen her in clothes and without her tubes in her nose and stuff, and so my dad said that she had passed away, and yeah, So that, yeah, I still remember that. But other than that, I really didn't know her that well. Yeah, but Carla, she was truly a miracle because she wasn't born as, like, she was born even earlier than Corey. She was born almost 3 months early, and so she had even more of a chance of dying, and she was going to die. All the doctors had told our parents that she would only live for a couple more days or weeks, and then she'd be dead. But she's very healthy, and I love her so much.
I composed a song, and the song is, I like this song, Hallelujah, and I know it's a very popular song by Leonard Cohen, and I just sang for all my daughters. I've sung for Keshi in verse 1, verse 2 I sang for Carla, verse 3 I sang for Kare, and verse 4 I sang for the 3 of them. And that was my first song to ever compose. I haven't composed another, but I was inspired by being in the hospital, just having all this time in my hands, or on my hands, and that was one beautiful thing I did. And well, after Kare passed on, we had her wake, or her memorial service, and during the memorial service I sang that song. It was beautiful. I feel that was the best thing that I had done for Kare. I can't do much more for her, that she has passed on. But in that moment, when I sang that song to over 300 people, I just felt that I had really honored her life. Well, I have a cousin who had a son who was older than Kare, and her son passed away just before Kare passed away. And she was distraught, of course, and here I was distraught, and we comforted each other. And there was another cousin, Fiona, too, who had lost a baby, and between Ev and I, we just felt that we needed more. And Ev is the first one who started this. She started going to visit orphans, and she felt that she was honoring her son's life, Emmanuel, with that. Shortly after, she involved me in it because she posted on Facebook, and I started, getting curious about it. And then she said, I want to form a foundation because I want to honor my son. And so I joined her in that, and we felt okay. So she came up with the name Little Hands, Beautiful Feet, and it just is an organization where we don't have any NGO registered, but that's the name of this organization, and we feel completely sold to this idea of looking after the fatherless and the motherless too. They are orphans. So we have continued to, she visits them, and we raise money, and every Christmas for the past 10 years she has gone and cooked on Christmas Day for these children. And so lately I have joined her in doing that.
My mother and her cousin started a foundation to help orphans with what they need and stuff like that. So I want to help them too. So for the last 2 years, I asked for money for my birthday, and then I gave it to that orphanage or the foundation for the health stuff, and do that because I want them to be as free or healthy as like me and like my family, and I don't want them to like be struggling or something.
Carla and I, like most siblings, fight a lot. Most of the time we're fighting, but we always make up after, and we just love each other so much. We do a lot of things together. We go hiking, we bungee jump, we do a lot of daring things together. We do a lot of traveling as a family, and we play a lot of football, rugby, not football, but rugby together, and we love walking our dog, and we love rollerblading. We do a lot of active things. Our dog his name is Benji, and yeah, like almost every night when we're free, we go to the sports park and we ride our bikes together, and we walk him. We stay out there for hours and hours, and yeah, so it's really fun to hang out with Carla. She's just awesome, and she's so cute.
Today, I'm here speaking about that. We are visiting Kenya from Canada, and we'll be here for five weeks. And in those 5 weeks, we have brought a lot of supplies for the orphanages. We've partnered now. This is the second year we are partnering with doctors and dentists from Canada, and they send us with packages to give the children. The dentists always give us, the toothbrushes and the toothpaste and just a little package, and we take a lot of pictures and we send them back to the dentist, and they are really happy. But we do want to do more. We have a construction company, and we think that in a year we'll be back and we'll do some rebuilding for some construction work at the orphanage, which is in a real bad state. But yeah, we think that we are building a lot from the ashes of our journey, but at the same time, we are grateful that from the loss of the children that we have lost, we are also encouraging others and feeling that God has a purpose with the loss of those children. He does have a purpose to make us even stronger than we were. It's not something I would have ever imagined that I would do. I never thought that losing a child would be the creation of an opportunity to encourage other children, or our daughters. We cremated Kare, so we have made there's lots of things. We have an urn with her ashes, and we actually wanted to bring her ashes to Kenya so she could visit Kenya with us. But I mean, the whole idea was not really to make it like idolize the whole urn ashes situation. So I thought that was a little too much, and I didn't bring the urn. But yeah, it crossed my mind that I could travel with the ashes to Kenya, but I'm not spreading them around Kenya or anything like that. It's just to bring them. Yeah.
Marianne Olson concurs with George Eliot's quote, which states, "Our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them."